Welcome to Whisperwood Stories. Today, we read 3 stories from r/shortscarystories. Let's begin. Our first story is from Juniper June. The Woman at the End of the Hall. She stands at the end of the hall, with her arms to her side. She doesn't make a single sound. Her soft blue eyes stay straight ahead, almost as if they're looking through you. More often than not, she appears to be almost lifelike, with long blonde curls, ruby red lips, and porcelain skin. A pretty, floral knee-length dress forms her delicate young figure, with shiny black heels to match. Her body doesn't move. It stands rigid, locked in place, until she fades into nothing. Though her face remains expressionless, her presence reeks of pure sadness. Other times, if you're unlucky enough, you'll get to catch a glimpse of the poor woman in her rotten state. With matted hair, smeared makeup, dirty blood-stained clothes, and a swollen scratch mark across her face. I guess one of the most unsettling things about her in this form is the bullet hole that goes clean through her eye socket. Whatever happened to the girl, it's clear that she didn't go down without a fight. However, even while tears stream down her cheeks, she continues to be silent and stiff. No one knows who the mysterious lady is, or why someone would have committed such a heinous act. The clothing suggests that her spirit has lingered there for well over 70 years. And I'm sure the house has changed hands many times since she succumbed to her fate. The person who hurt her probably passed long ago, leaving her to suffer in agony, standing at the end of the hall. Our second story is from Bruggalug. My 6th period English class is the worst. My 6th period English class is the absolute worst. It's not because of the dry novels, tedious poems, and boring plays that our teacher makes us read. No, the true cause of my daily anguish is none other than Christopher Stedman. Let me clarify one point about Chris. He's dead. Apparently he stroked out right in the middle of the same English class that I attend. At the time, it wasn't clear what had caused the stroke. Some said he had a bad reaction to drugs. Others claimed a genetic defect. Allegedly, one teacher was overheard saying that he had an undiagnosed brain tumor. All of them were wrong. I know what really happened to Christopher Stedman. In order to properly explain how I know, you first have to understand the nature of my interactions with Chris. Every day, as I enter the class, the first thing I must do is find where he's sitting. Chris changes seats daily, and he loves to hide. If I'm lucky, he'll just be at an empty desk, his gray hoodie pulled up, with his long brown hair hanging over his eyes. Usually there's a dark streak of maroon blood that extends from the corner of his mouth to his neck. On these occasions, the good days, he'll just stare straight ahead at the dry erase board, seemingly oblivious to the rest of the class. At other times, Chris will be sitting in the same seat as someone else. In those occasions, it's impossible for me to focus on the class until I spot the aberration. An extra arm here, or a foot there. Sometimes I'll find him staring at me from the side of my classmate's face, only 2 feet away. Those times are the worst. Then when we lock eyes, he smiles this sick, twisted grin at me until he faces forward again. When I can't find him, it's because Chris is sitting at my desk. How he does this without me seeing is beyond me. I can tell because a feeling of ice cold washes over my body, and I begin hearing his thoughts in my head. That's why I know what killed him. See, no one misses Chris. He was a horrible person. The teachers didn't have much love for him, and especially my English teacher, Mrs. White. He never took anything seriously and did his best to harass her at every turn. That's why Chris was stunned to receive a "great job" sticker on an assignment he'd bothered to complete. It was one of those scratch and sniff types. Also, it was laced with some seizure-inducing chemical or other, which not only caused Chris to have a stroke, but to bleed and foam from the mouth. Not a very sexy way to go. Chris was, and still is, pissed. Anyway, Chris has promised he'll leave me in peace as long as I kill Mrs. White. I don't want to. I don't think I can. But I still bring a gun with me, just in case. Our last story is from Simba the Savage. Dead.fm. I was messing around with the dials on the old radio, even though it was nearly midnight and most stations had stopped broadcasting. It was a beautiful beast, that radio. It was made in 1920 and had a shell of oak. The air was silent and still. I could hear nothing but static. Then,
Daddy, is that you? Can you hear me?
I nearly jumped out of my skin when I heard that. Her voice was like a sorrowful angel. It was also very familiar. I hadn't heard that voice for many years. Rosie? Tears welled into my eyes. Rosie passed away when she was just 7 years old.
I miss you, Daddy. Will you come and visit me?
I frowned, looking at the moon shining in the window. It was getting really late, but Rosie needed me. Sure, honey, I said. There was no going back. The path leading to the graveyard was dark, illuminated only lightly by the moon. Weeds twisted and grew on the edges. Creepers hung down by the sides. I had to push through a vast undergrowth to move through. It felt like I was walking through an untamed jungle. Finally, the path opened up where more light fell. Gravestones stood in groups of 2 or 3s, staring at me solemnly as I walked past. Some had withered flowers lying on freshly turned soil. Finally, I found Rosie's grave. Unlike the others, her gravestone was cracked and worn down by the rain and wind. I could barely make out the words on her grave. I knelt down in front of it and bowed my head. I love you, Rosie, I whispered, tears in my eyes. No, you don't. I jerked up my head to see my daughter scowling at me. Her eyes were bloody and swollen, her lips cracked and purple. Her neck was bent at an awkward angle. She was wearing a dirty white dress. You never visited my grave. You just forgot about me. You're a terrible father. Spindly, pale hands reached out from the soil and grabbed my waist, anchoring me to the ground. For the first time, Rosie cracked a smile. The soil rose up around me, licking my body. The hands dragged me downwards. But you're here now, she said. And you'll be forever with me. Thank you for listening to Whisperwood Stories. If you enjoyed, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe down below. Do you have a story that you'd like me to read here? Consider commenting or sending it to whisperwoodsubmissions@gmail.com. The stories in this video were read and may have been slightly altered with the author's permissions. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check out the original Reddit posts. Don't let the shadows get too close.